Hi, and welcome to today's demo of the Bridge Operator Console. Today's version will be running on Windows. BOC supports Windows XP all the way through Windows 8.64. If you wish to see previews of how it works on iPad or an Android tablet, those are also available on our YouTube channel. For today's demo, I'm going to be playing the part of Melissa Wendt. She is our operator. The primary extension on her phone is 7601. Her phone is a 7965 Cisco desk phone. That looks something like this. You can see her primary extension. She's got a second line, a shared line, and some other menu things. Fairly standard phone. This phone over here is the phone of Susan Larson, extension 7012. I've got that on the screen because that's who I'm going to be doing the bulk of the transfers to, and I'll also be sending messages and voice pages to it as well. It lets you see both ends, so we can see what happens on our end when we transfer a call, and we'll also see the receiver's phone over here. So just so there's no confusion, this is not our phone, this is the phone of who we're going to be transferring calls to. So let's start with the screen layout and go through this really quickly. The top left-hand corner up here is what we call our heads-up display area. That's going to show you information about the current call that you have selected. If there's more than one call ringing your phone, those will populate here in the My Calls box, by default from oldest to newest. So what do I mean by the current call selected? Well, if there's one call ringing our phone, that's the current call selected. Nothing real difficult there. If we get a second call, you'll see that populate here. Now, if we want to make it the selected call, we can simply click on it. And you see all the buttons will change depending on what state the call is in. So we're able to flip between these two calls. We can select the one that's on hold or the one we're talking to. By default, BOC comes with a little bit of extra power that lets you do some things you can't do on the phone. One of those is transfer a call that's in a state of hold. By selecting this one, while I'm still actually speaking with the second call, I can double-click and transfer this call to Susan. That's something I can't do on the phone, so that's on by default. If that is too confusing and you'd like to have it set up so that BOC will automatically always just select the call you're speaking with, that's an option you can set in the settings as well. But that's what I mean by the selected call. To the right of the heads-up display area is the parking lot information. And since we are not a phone system on top of a phone system, all the calls that are parked using either our program or the phones all go in the same spot. They go in the Cisco Call Manager parking lot. So to that end, we'll also show all the calls that are parked either by our program or by the phone themselves. They'll all show up here in the same spot. We do have a function in our program called Park For, which I'll show a little bit later, that can make call parking a little bit more useful. And you'll see that in real time and it'll make sense. To the right, we have extension groups. And these are exactly what they say. They're just groups of extensions. It's not how you have to find people in our program. You don't have to click on a group and scroll around to find the right person. They're there simply so that you can do something like show me who's on the phone in the sales department. So I can click on the sales department and see the status of all those people. These can be built automatically either on the server side from Microsoft Active Directory, or they can be built from the Call Manager end users table using the department field. Operators can also make their own groups. So if there's a group of extensions you need to keep an eye on, you can do that as well under the new section. You can also import data from the legacy Cisco Attendant Console here. Below the extension groups are location objects. These are set up on the server, and basically these are a good place to put things that you either need to call or transfer a call to that aren't going to be an extension on somebody's phone. A good example might be a Hunt Pilot number. Perhaps you transfer a call to a Hunt Pilot number and it rings a group of phones. Those can be set up again on the server. Some other things that you can do here, you can dial and wait. If you have an old paging system that needs you to dial a 1, wait 2 seconds and then dial 100, you can set that up here as well. So you can also transfer to these items, call them, whatever you need to do. But that's what location objects are. The bottom bar will show you some other information. It'll show you the current version that you're running. Now we have both a 32 and 64-bit version that are native, so they're not emulated or anything like that. It'll show you whether you're running in our recommended hybrid mode. It allows you to change the font sizes to larger if you want larger list sizes, and that will kind of follow you on all the other forms as well, and it'll remember the settings. The color key is here to the left. You can reference that if you need to, but there's a lot of information that will be provided in the status column, so you probably won't need that more than maybe the first day or so you use the program. The search box is here, and as you see this description, it says enter any part of anybody's first name, last name, telephone number, extension, department, title, or group. That's a lot of information there, but really it's a single search box that can find people in the extensions, your personal address book, and the global address book all in one spot, depending on what you wanted to search for. For example, part of somebody's first name or last name. Let's just start typing part of Susan's name, and you'll see we find a couple matches. We can also type a department. If we want to see everybody in sales, we can type sales, and we'll see all these people that match the sales as well. We can narrow our search also. Say we wanted to look for Larry, but they don't know his last name, but they know he works in sales. Well, we can say, all right, let's toggle it to a group search, and let's search for sales. So now we're searching in only sales for Larry, and you'll see we find the correct Larry. We can toggle that back to a global search easily as well with that toggle button. So that's how the search bar works. The call control buttons are here, and they'll light up as they're applicable, but you'll see there's lots of different ways in the program to answer calls, transfer calls, hang up calls, etc. That's just one method there. So again, kind of piggybacking on that, since we aren't a phone system on top of a phone system, meaning we aren't taking the call off the phone system into our own little world and forcing you to answer it with the computer. Instead, we act more like a smart remote control for your telephone. So whether our program is up or not, your phone will still ring. We just let you automate some of the function there. So, for example, if our phone was ringing and we wanted to answer the phone, we can do it a number of different ways. We can click here on this answer button that lights up. We could have double-clicked where it was pink, here or here. We could have right-clicked on the call and said answer. We could use our handset on our telephone. We could use our wireless headset on our telephone. Or we could also click F1, which would be a keyboard shortcut to answer. So we provide a lot of different mechanisms for doing things. So once we've answered our call, now we want to transfer it. Well, transferring is no different. There's a number of different ways to do that as well. One of which is drag and drop. That's the first method I'll show you. And in that typical scenario, what we would do is we'd search and find the person we're looking for, and we can drag any one of these functions onto that person. So this would transfer the call to them, this would park the call for them, and that would send it right to their voicemail if we knew they were out. We're also able to click pretty much anywhere up here where it's green and drag it and drop it on the person we want to transfer the call to. You'll see it show a ringing state, and we're able to, within a millisecond display real-time information once they answer the call as well. When our console sees there are no more calls, it will put your screen back the way you had it, so you don't have to clear out the search and go back to groups or anything like that. So it won't mess it up if you have more than one call and you're searching for things back and forth in between. It's really smart, and it'll be a helper to you rather than a hindrance. So that's the drag and drop transfer. Some other ways that are maybe faster, better to do it. Let's answer this call with double click. Double click is a smart function in VOC. So if I double click on a call, it's going to put that call on hold. If I double click on a call that's on hold, it's going to take it off hold. Oops, I don't think I got it. There we go. If I'm on a call and I double click someone like you saw earlier, it'll transfer that call to that person. If for some reason I need to get that call back while it's ringing, I can also double click it and pull it back to me, at which point I could use double click to answer it again. So double click is probably the fastest way to do a blind transfer, and it is a smart function. So one other thing it will do if I'm not on the phone and I double click someone, it's going to call that person. So it's really situationally aware to what's going on, and it will kind of automate whatever process you're trying to do for you without having to think too much. Some other ways to transfer would include a freeform transfer. And in a freeform transfer, we're going to end up using the keypad or number keys on our keyboard if we want. We can type any number we want here. It can be part of the phone system. It can be off the phone system. It does not matter, however we would dial it. It will remember if we prefer a supervised transfer as opposed to a blind. But at this point, all we do is press enter, and we've transferred that call. If you prefer to use the keyboard instead of the mouse, VOC provides keyboard shortcuts for most of the call control things as well. And we'll just handle a whole call using just the keyboard. So we'll use F1 to answer the call. Now, in order to transfer the call, it's a little bit different. We need to search until only one person exists on the screen. So we can type as much of somebody's name as we need to get to that. So we'll type Susan, so we just have one Susan. So we've got her. Now we can use either the F2 blind, F3 freeform, F4 supervised, or F6 voicemail transfer. In this case, we'll just hit the F2 to do the same sort of transfer that we've been doing, and you'll see that happen exactly the same as it did with the mouse. The last method for transferring is, if we have a preferred method, this is probably it. It's using the right mouse click. And the reason that we would say prefer this is because it'll give you all the options in one place. So it's got the blind transfer that I've been doing, the supervised transfer, the straight to voicemail transfer, the ability to look into Active Directory and transfer to any other numbers that are there, as well as a whole bunch of other things I'll talk about in just a second. But for now, let's show you what a supervised transfer looks like. And this is where the first call goes on hold, and we actually outcalled Susan. So we're talking to her, and we can tell her, hey, you've got a call from Johnson Insurance. If she can take that call and wants it, we can click yes, and it'll complete the transfer. If she can't for some reason, we could say no. That would hang up this call and resume us back to this call with Johnson Insurance. But in this case, we're just going to say yes and complete the transfer. And you'll see it shows completed on the phone and in our program simultaneously. Call parking is very similar. There's a couple of different methods for that as well. One of which will park a call very much like the telephone handset does, where you receive a park position number and not a whole lot else. I can do that two ways. I can right-click on any call and say Park General, or I can click and drag the call an inch to the parking lot. And you'll see when I do that, the call is now parked on 7520. I don't have a whole lot of other information. If I want to get a call out of the parking lot, I can just double-click it instead of having to dial it, and that'll bring it right back to me. Now, what we've added here at Bridge Operator Console is a function called Park For. Park For takes parking and makes it a little bit more useful. So we know this call is for Susan. We're not sure of her availability, or perhaps she's on the phone. We can right-click on her, and we can say Park For. So what Park For is going to do is it's going to give us a whole bunch more information up here. So when there's 10 parked calls, we know which one was parked for Susan. We know who the caller is. We know when it's going to ring back to us, all that good stuff. In addition to that, it can push out a sound and a screen right to Susan's phone, so she can see she's got a call parked. She can see when it was parked, who the caller is, where it's parked, and who parked it in case she needs to call us and make sure it's still there. At this point, all she has to do is pick up her handset to take this call, or in our case, push the dial button. You'll see when she does that, that call is taken right to her phone. Again, where call parking can be very nice in our world is if somebody's on the phone. We don't know if this call or this call is more important to Susan. We can see she's on the phone, but we can use Park For to let her decide. And you'll see when we do that, everything happens the same. It'll go up here in the parking lot the same. It'll notify her that she has a parked call. What it doesn't do is it doesn't mess up the call she's on. She's still speaking with this first caller, but now we've given her the option. Perhaps this call is more important and she needs to deal with it. Perhaps she doesn't want to and she just wants to ignore it and let it ring back to us. Either way, we've put the option on her hands now. So she could even take this call and ask the other person to hold. She can then deal with this call. When she's done, she can resume back to her first call. And we'll show that in our program as well. So that's the Park For function. Some of the other things we can do, again, we can right-click on someone and we can say Message to Phone. This can be handy if someone's on the phone as well. Perhaps, well, let's just put Susan on the phone, shall we? All right, so let's get her a call. So she's on the phone. Well, maybe somebody walked into the front desk and they're here for their 2:30 meeting with her. Well, we want to let her know, but we're not certain that she's going to see an IM or an email. She might be turned around looking at her phone. Who knows? We can send a message right to her Cisco desk phone that works exactly the same as a cell phone text message would to a cell phone, but this will be to her Cisco desk phone. So we could say your 2:30 appointment is here. Now we have the option to send this in the future. If we wanted to send a reminder at 4 o'clock to do something, we can do that. But in this case, we want to send it urgently. So we'll say send now. So what will happen is she'll receive that message on her phone. And you'll see it won't interrupt the call that she's on. So now she's got this message. She can see who it was from and who sent it. But again, it won't interrupt the call that she's on. So we've given her the option to send an OK back to acknowledge this, but let us know she got it. She can reply to it on the phone if she likes. She can look at the history. If she was out for 10 minutes and wants to see if any other messages hit her phone, she can look at them all. Or she can just clear it all together. In this case, we'll send back an OK. So what that'll do is it'll pop back on our screen and let us know that this message that we sent her has been acknowledged, so we know she got it. Another option that we have is paging to the phone. That will involve, if she's on the phone, a whisper page where we'll be able to speak into her ear where she can hear us but the caller can't. And to do that, we can, again, right-click and we can say page to phone. Now you'll notice here her phone's gone into a receive mode where she can hear us now but the caller won't be able to. When we're done talking, we can hit that and her phone will resume back to normal. If she's not on the phone, that'll function a little bit differently. She'll go into a muted speaker mode. As you can see here, now we're kind of broadcasting into her area. You'll notice it doesn't use a Cisco phone line. There's nothing to really configure on the call manager. There's no voice resources used on either our server or the call manager. The phones actually do all the work in this process. We just act as a conductor telling one to start sending and one to start receiving. So that's paging to the phone. The next topic is external numbers. What do we do with people that aren't part of the phone system that we either need to call or transfer calls to? Well, we have a phone book section here which contains a My Address book, which is typically numbers that are just for your consumption. They're not for the whole world. We have an Active Directory phone book that can pull and harvest all of the Active Directory information if you're configured with that on our server end. And we have a global phone book that's visible to all the users of BOC. So it's kind of a place for shared contacts, if you will. We can open up any one of these. Like for instance, the My Address book, it's by category, so I can create as many categories as I want. If I want to look at all the people in my cell phones category, I can do that. I can transfer calls to them. I can call them. I can send them an email if they have an email address. I can do all those things. I can also copy this category to another user. If I want Henry Lake to have this category, I can push it right to his BOC client. Here I can also import from the CSV or from the legacy Cisco Attendant Console file. So I can pull in all of my old speed dials from my old Cisco legacy console and have those in here without having to re-enter anything. The My Address Book tab is also available here, and you'll see it has all of the same things. You'll notice it also, when I search for, say, John, it filters with a search box. And again, I have all the same functions. I can send an email to one of these people just by clicking email once I've got them selected. I don't have my mail client open yet, but it'll just take a second. And you'll see it pop up this email. It also gives me the ability to call or transfer calls right from here as well. So that's the My Address Book. The Active Directory address book is similar. Say maybe I'm looking for Joe and I only find this Joe and I realize, oh, I've got another Joe in Active Directory. I can click on that Active Directory phone book and it keeps my search through. I can find the Joe I'm looking for and transfer that call to his home phone number if I need to. So we can leverage the Active Directory database that your company may or may not already have, so you don't have to double enter that data as well. The global address book works the same way. It's built by category. It's also available on the main screen as well. So you can look at a record. You can have custom fields, so you can name these things on the server whatever you want, and you can hook this to any other database that you may have. If you have another database that has CRM information or whatever you'd like to, this is built just for that. So you can push the data back and forth. You can allow certain people to be able to just view it or edit or delete records. It gives you kind of a permission control as well. So it's really more of a place to put things that everybody needs to be able to see. You just want to change them in one place or have them replicate changed from another data source. That's the global address book. Call forwarding can be done a couple of different ways. One of which would be to right-click on someone and say, forward the phone. So if we need to forward someone's phone, we can do that. We can forward Susan's phone to 7001. And you'll see that phone will pop up a little notification on her phone to let her know that Melissa Went just forwarded her phone. But we'll show that as well. And you can see the status here in our console as well. We'll show that for any phone that's forwarded, whether it's using the buttons on the phone or our program to do that. And we'll show the same thing for Do Not Disturb as well. So if someone, say, Do Not Disturbs their phone, we'll show that as well. So, and I'll go ahead and just push Do Not Disturb on this phone. And we'll see in 5 to 10 seconds that'll show up in that as well. Now, we can also get status from lots of different other sources. We can get it from Cisco Presence. We can get it from Microsoft Link. Keep an eye on Doug Johnson here. I'm just going to change his Microsoft Link status to Do Not Disturb. And literally in about 1 second, it'll show up in BOC. So we can get that status information from a lot of different places. We'll always show call information on top of any other status. With our optional Exchange connector that I'll mention later, we can have Microsoft Exchange actually populate this based on the Exchange calendar as well, so you can see who's available, who's not in the office. So the other way to forward a call would be to use our server, and we can click up here to do that if we want. It has one major advantage and one major disadvantage. The major advantage is it can be shut off by itself at a certain time. The major disadvantage is, other than the first screen we're going to send to that phone to let it know it's been forwarded, there will be no way to tell on the phone that it's actually forwarded because our server is going to be doing that work. Since our server knows about all the events in the phone system, it's able to do some things based on that. It can see that a call is coming for, Melissa Wendt, our phone, and it can redirect that before it ever rings the phone to Susan Larson. It can do that, again, because there's a series of events that are triggered when things happen. And we actually know about a call 3 events before your phone will know that it's supposed to start ringing. So in this case, we'll just have a call come to Melissa, and you'll see it just instantly get bounced over to Susan. So that's how that works. And in 2 minutes, that's going to go away by itself, and you can kind of watch it while I'm talking, and we won't have to shut it off, which is nice. We can go over here and see what Melissa's phone looks like, and we can clear the message that popped up on it, letting her know that her phone has been forwarded and by whom until when. All right, so that's cleared. The other thing we can do on the server side is we can do kind of number dial detection. And what this is commonly used for is just a simple alerting if someone were to, say, dial 911. You can set up your server to notify either a person or group of people of an occurrence like that. And you can notify them a couple different ways if you want. It's off by default, but we give you the option to notify them either via an SMTP email message, which would be sent to either a person or group of people of your choosing. It would contain all the information about the call and the caller that it could gather. So if we're hooked up with Active Directory, it could tell you things like the person's office they work in, the department, the floor, their home phone number, things that would be valuable in an actual emergency. If you would rather notify via telephone, we can do that as well. And what I mean by that is I'm actually going to dial 911 on phone 7001. And you'll see when I do, since Susan is in our group of people to be notified, she gets an immediate splash on her screen that phone 7001 just dialed 911. Melissa probably got that as well. And we'll go ahead and clear that off of there too. And you'll see in just a second or so, this forward should go away. I think the clocks are off just a bit on the server, but it should go away here in just a sec. So the 911 detection, is, again, it's off by default, but you can specify one or both of the alerting options if you choose. And it doesn't just have to be the number 911. It can be a string of numbers separated via commas you can set up on the server. So if you wanted to detect a group of numbers being dialed, you can do that as well. And you see the forward just went away. The console itself will typically be run in this full mode for an operator. We have the option to run it in a smaller mini view, typically for department heads or people that want to be able to have some call control, keep an eye on people, but don't want to have a whole screen devoted to the program. They can run it in this smaller IM style size. Again, it all functions exactly the same. So you'll see it's just more a compact view. It does that by making certain windows pop out. So if I wanted to see the parking lot, I have to pop it out, etc. But I can do all of the same things I could do in the full console. It's just smaller. And I can toggle between views anytime I choose. There are 2 main add-ons that come available with Bridge Operator Console as well. The first is, I mentioned it before, our Microsoft Exchange integration. what that'll do is a couple of things. It'll provide both the Exchange contacts in that person's My Address book for them, and they'll always be synchronized. So we have all of our Exchange contacts here. If I need to call one of them, I don't have to flip back and forth between programs to do so. I can do it all from in there. The second thing it can do, like I said, is it can change the status of these people based on their Microsoft Outlook calendar. And most Presence programs can do that as well. But what we can do takes it a little bit further. Like say I right-click on Doug Johnson, maybe it said he was out of the office today, or out of the office right now. I can look at extension properties and I can see a blinded version of his calendar. So I can actually see that he is, in a meeting right now. He'll be returning at 3 o'clock. So maybe the caller wants to know, okay, he's out. Do you know when he'll be back? It'll show a blind view here. Well, by blind, I mean it'll show a location, if he specified one, and it'll show the free, tentative, busy, or out of the office status. What it won't show is the meeting subject, meeting body, meeting attendees, things of that nature. That's off by default. If you want to enable some of that, you can, but by default it comes turned off. So it's more of a blind view, just more of an in and out, and when he'll return status information. The second optional add-on is our group messaging and paging. So you saw in our program, we're able to send a message or page one person at a time in the program using the console. That's all included in our base package. If we wanted to be able to page 50 phones at once or something like that, or send a message to every phone in the organization all at once, you could purchase our group messaging and paging add-on. It gives you two options. One, it will let you build groups on the server if you want, of either voice groups or text groups. Most people don't do that. They'll use existing extension groups. So on any extension group, I could right-click on it and say, voice page all the phones in that group. And now a whole bunch of phones are listening to me talk. I could also right-click and send a message to every group in that phone, or every phone in that group. The last thing it'll do that's kind of neat is it can do a group park for. Rather than transferring a call to a hunt group where we might have a line ringing all day long, we can kind of quietly park this call for a group of people and say, when do you pick this up? Now everyone in this group just got this message on their phone that there's a call parked, and they can see who it is. I'm going to pick it up on a different phone, and you'll see when I do, we'll notify the other phones that somebody else got it and put them back to normal. So it's kind of a quiet, polite way of distributing a call to a group of people. That will end today's demo of the Bridge Operator Console. For more task-specific demos or to see the mobile versions of BOC, you can visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/bridgeoc, or you can visit our webpage at www.bridgeoc.com. Thank you and have a great day.